Alright guys, welcome to day 36, and today we're going to be talking about the fear of change. Change is one of the most desired experiences, yet one of the most feared experiences at the same time. And the thing about the fear of change is that it's not very obvious. What that means is that you're not conscious, or you're not very much aware that you're actually afraid of change. You may substitute that fear of change for something else that you think you may really be afraid of, right? So the thing is that we pray for change, we plan for change, we make all of these wishes and desires. But when change begins to demand things from us, like comfort, identity, relationships, certainty, fear rises, and that's where the problem is. And this fear is not a fear of failure, it's a fear of not recognizing yourself, fear of becoming different, fear of uncertainty, fear of living a familiar version of who they are. So many people remain where they are, not because they can't grow or they don't have the ability to grow, but they actually fear change, they fear transformation, they fear the journey, right? So what exactly frightens us about change? The thing is that human beings are wired for stability, and uncertainty or instability is like potential danger to a human being. And so the normal response to something new, something different, will be fear. And that's why we're always afraid when we're trying to do new things, or trying to go to just engage something new, right? Even though the activity itself is not bad or it's not scary, we're just afraid because it's just new, right? And the reaction to that is just fear. And it's natural, right, for human beings. But the fact that the reaction is fear does not mean that you should intentionally respond or engage with the fear. Now, I'm going to use this quote, to explain certain things about change. So there's a quote that says, "No man ever steps into the same river twice, for it is not the same river and it is not the same man." It's just trying to say that change is constant, right? And so that river, if someone steps into a river at this moment now, and he steps in the next 1 second, right, or in the next 1 minute, or whatever time frame, right, it's not the same river, because what the river is flowing, and even if the river is not flowing, even the stagnant water, right, that first step has caused a change in the river, and that man too, there is a change in him also, because he has gotten wet, right? So whether it's physically, or however, right? I'm just using this picture of the river and the man, in a physical sense to describe it. So he's wet now. So stepping into that same river, he's no longer a dry man stepping into the river, right? He's now a wet man stepping into the river, and in that river has taken a different form and shape because some molecules or something must have been displaced from the first step, right? So change is constant. There are times that life changes us without our permission, and we just tend to adapt because there's really nothing we can do, right? But there are some times where growth will ask us to change deliberately, and we just have to. And that's when we actually hesitate, when growth will demand change from us. But when life just changes, suddenly we adapt. But when growth demands change, we hesitate because it's just like a potential danger, a lot of uncertainties. So now, one of the biggest fear of change is becoming someone different. So it's just like asking, if I change now, will I still be me? Obviously, you're changing, so you don't expect to be the same person, right? You obviously want to be the you that you are at the moment, right? Because you're going to grow, you're going to change, you're going to learn new things, you're going to unlearn new things, you're going to relearn new things. So the thing is that change does not remove your identity or erase your identity, except it needs to be erased. But what it does is that it refines your identity, it aligns it, right, with more credible values and standards. And it's just your understanding that the version of you that exists today is not your final draft. You're going to evolve. And you refusing to evolve, that is to change, is not you being loyal to your identity or to yourself. It's actually fear disguised as stability. Now there's this comfort of familiar misery. What this means is that we're just comfortable with what we already know, where we already are, and we don't just want to stretch, like we are okay. Alright, and this is one of those silent things that resist change. You're just okay where you are. You think you want to change, but really you're okay with where you are. And this is why people never really meet up with their plans or their goals for the year or for whatever season, right? Because they want to change, but they don't really want to change. And trust me, it happens. Sometimes you're not even aware, but when you do like some reflection, you find out that you actually want to change. You have the plans ready, but really you don't want to change because of this fear of uncertainty, this fear of you never know, fear of the unknown. And also another expression of this fear is what people may say, right? The thing is that, yes, when you change, obviously people will notice, people around you will notice. I mean, it's not a bad thing if people recognize or begin to say that you've changed, right? It's not a bad thing because it's supposed to be a thing. And so if your growth threatens someone else's comfort, right, or threatens a relationship, then it's not your fault, right? It does not mean you're failing. It just means that you've outgrown certain things, and that's the way life works, right? You've outgrown certain people, you've outgrown certain habits. Not because these people are necessarily bad people, but in where you are now and where you're going, you can't carry them along, right? You can't carry them along, So if they're not able to join you, then you have to let them go. And it's going to be difficult, but there are some sacrifices you just need to make too, because changing will also require that you leave some things behind, whether it be people, relationship, habits, and activities, and so on. You have to leave something behind in order to truly change. Right, so today we just looked at the fear of change. Tomorrow we're going to look at how to actually deal with this fear of change. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow.